told this account twice. Once to the field surgeon who asked why I was still breathing, and once to the inquiry officer who needed a formal record of Sector Veth. Both times I gave them the facts they asked for. Neither asked about the footprints, so I left that part out. I am telling it in full now because the footprints are the only part that matters. My name is Ketvera. I served as a forward scout in the 9th Coalition Auxiliary. Auxiliary is a polite way of saying I was one of 14 species thrown together because the Thrak had been burning everything from the dust rim inward for 6 seasons, and the Coalition had run out of elegant solutions. The Thrak are a warrior caste by religion and a siege culture by practice. They fight in the deep canyons of their border territories the way other species breathe. Slowly, patiently, without apparent effort. They had held Sector Veth 9 for 11 years. We were sent to take it back in a 3-squad advance. Sector Veth 9 is a canyon system 40 kilometers through red-orange sandstone. Walls 60 meters high. Floor soft, dust-overpacked bedrock. Prints survive there. In the dry season, the temperature at canyon floor level will cook unprotected tissue. We wore thermal suits. The Thrak do not need them. They evolved there. I was injured in the ambush at the 3rd canyon junction. It happened at the 14th hour of our advance. The Thrak had waited at the upper wall fissures and dropped incendiary charges into the column from above. It was not a complex tactic. It did not need to be. I took shrapnel across both lower limbs and went down behind a sandstone shelf. Around me the column reformed and moved. The retreat order had come. Protocol was explicit. Wounded who cannot move under their own power are noted by position marker and recovered by the next forward element, if there is a next forward element. There was not going to be a next forward element. Everyone in the column knew that. I knew it too. I watched the last pair of boots disappear around the bend in the canyon wall, and then I was alone with the heat and the dust and the sound of Thrak armor scraping stone somewhere above me. Traditional armor those warriors wore. Interlocking plates of heat-treated mineral shell in overlapping layers the color of the canyon itself. They are almost invisible up there when they go still. I could hear them, but I could not see them, which is worse. I had water for 6 hours. The shrapnel had not cut anything vital, but it had cut enough. I stayed behind the shelf and counted my options and arrived at a sum of approximately 0. The Thrak sweep slowly. That is their doctrine. When the column has retreated, they move methodically, room by room, shelf by shelf, because they have time and they know it. I heard the first warrior reach the canyon bend at roughly the 2nd hour after the column pulled out. He paused. He had seen something. I flattened myself behind the shelf and waited. The sound of his armor stopped. A long time passed. Then, somewhere deeper in the canyon, not from the direction the column had gone, but from a smaller side fissure that I had not even registered as a passage, there was a single low sound. Not a voice. A displaced stone. A Thrak warrior does not displace stones. They have been moving through that canyon system since before they built their first temple. They know every loose rock. A human displaces stones because a human has not spent her life in this particular canyon and does not have 30 generations of muscle memory telling her feet where to step. She compensates by moving fast and quiet and making the one mistake she cannot avoid, the occasional loose stone. And she compensates for that by already being somewhere else by the time the sound arrives. I did not know it was her at that moment. I knew it was not Thrak. The warrior at the canyon bend turned away from my position toward the sound. I heard him move 6, 8 steps. Then there was a different sound. Shorter. And then nothing. Then silence. It is a particular kind of silence when something large stops moving abruptly. There is a quality to it that you recognize once you have heard it and cannot stop recognizing afterward. I heard it twice more in the next 20 minutes. The same short sound. The same sudden nothing. Both times from a different part of the canyon. Then her boots came around my shelf. Private Mara Solon was not a large person. She stood perhaps a head shorter than me, and I am not tall for my species. She was wearing a standard coalition thermal suit, with a left sleeve burned from the ambush and a field compress taped over her forearm with the same tape we used to mark equipment. She had a secondary pack that she had not started the day with. She looked at me the way a person looks at a calculation they already did in their head. On the way over, she crouched down. She checked my legs. She did not ask how I was feeling. "Two of them left in the upper approach," she said. "The side fissure goes the long way around. It'll cost us about 40 minutes, but the Thrak don't use it. The headroom's wrong for their armor." I said, "You came back." She looked at me with an expression I did not have a name for at the time. Not confusion. Something more like the expression you make when someone has observed that water is wet. "Yeah," she said. "Come on." She pulled me to my feet and took my weight on her left side, which was the burn side, and she did not mention this. We moved into the side fissure. The headroom was wrong for Thrak armor, and it was not much better for a species of my dimensions, but Solon moved through it at a pace that surprised me. And she read the walls by touch in the sections where the light ran out. It did repeatedly, and she adjusted our path without breaking rhythm. Took 53 minutes, not 40. At the 30-minute mark, she stopped, listened to something I could not hear, and redirected us through a secondary split in the rock that I would not have found without her. At the 40-minute mark, she gave me the last of her water without commenting on it. At the 53rd minute, we came out of the fissure into the flat desert above the canyon system, and she put up the signal marker that brought the triage shuttle. 11 minutes later, at the triage station, while the field surgeon was working on my legs, I watched her sit down against the station wall and take stock of what the return trip had cost her. I had not been able to see it clearly in the canyon. Out in the light, it was plain. The burns were worse than she had let on. There were lacerations on her right side that corresponded in shape to the upper canyon wall, which meant she had gone through a passage that did not have comfortable clearance. The dust in her hair was pale red canyon floor dust, not the gray-brown surface dust, meaning she had been at floor level in the main channel at some point. Meaning she had been close to the Thrak sweep. Closer than the side fissure alone would have required. She had done something in the canyon before she came to my shelf. Several things. And she had done them quietly. And she had not announced any of them. And when she found me, she had simply assessed the situation and stated the exit route in the same voice one might use to discuss a supply manifest. I have thought about that day many times since. I have thought about what it means that she turned around when the column moved forward. There was no order to do it. There was no strategic value in returning for a single auxiliary scout with shrapnel in his legs. The column would not have censured her for following protocol. Protocol, in fact, pointed in the opposite direction. She went back anyway. There is a classification for Earth. Most of the coalition uses Class 19, though some of the older survey records still argue for Class 21. It is a conversation I understand the humans find faintly amusing. The classification system was designed to measure a world's biological hostility. It was not designed to measure what a world does to the things it produces. It measures teeth, bacteria, atmospheric volatility, predator density. It does not have a column for what you get when 4 billion years of that environment produces a thing that turns around. Footprints were what stayed with me. In the dust of the side fissure, where the light came back near the exit, I could see the record of her passage on the way in. The 2 heavy prints of someone moving fast toward the canyon, toward the Thrak sweep. Not because she was ordered to. Not because the math was in her favor. Because someone she knew was still in there. The galaxy has produced many things that can kill you quickly. The Thrak are efficient and patient and have been burning the dust rim for 6 seasons without visible fatigue. I do not minimize them, but I watched Mara Solon sit against that station wall in the afternoon light, cut and burned and already quiet again. And I understood something that the classification system had not prepared me for. You can map the teeth of a death world. You cannot map what the teeth leave behind.